So last time you guys were assigned homework to discuss the serial killer story here in class. To prepare for that, your opinion on the death penalty. So we had some questions. Do you think some people deserve the death penalty, or do you think it's more suitable for them to spend life in prison? What crimes deserve the death penalty, and where do we draw the line? Who would like to begin the discussion, please? Should I call someone randomly?
Maybe we begin with the summary of the story.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Events, serial killer who ate 29 people. That's one real story. Events of this story starts in South Korea between 2003 and 2004. It's the most heinous crime witnessed by that country in that time. A criminal he also called Raincoat Killer is a serial killer that he murdered more than 20 victims as he had admitted to the police. He was born in 1970 in poverty family. His parents separated and he lived with a stepmother that was violent towards him and his siblings. Unfortunately, his father passed away in 1985 in the traffic accident. He decided to work hardly and succeed in 1988. He joined to a technical school that would accept him with the qualification he had. But instead of study, he discovered another fast way to gain money. At 18 years old, he started to stealing from his neighbor and wealthy people. As consequences of that, he sent to the prison. As a result of that, he dismissed from the university. Although he had get married and he had a son. He had been continued to do this works, and from time to time he sent to the prison. As a result, his wife uh, divorced. At this time, he started to thinking how he could revenge. The murders targeted were the wealthy people and compensate to compensate the yearly deprivations and women. This is what I mean, compensate for the poor. يعني يعني التعويض عن الفقر. Okay, see, the serial crime start with the old wealthy man as by a simple tool as a homemade hammer, knife, and gloves. He was wearing a raincoat as the police watched him by the cameras. He continued for many crimes at the same pattern. After that, he changed the patterns and he targeted the prowlers, ladies, especially without any families or friends. They were easy to kill where nobody will ask about them. When one, thank you. When one owner of massage parlors notes the strange disappearances, furthermore, there is another missing ladies from another massage parlors. It was obvious. It was obvious there is something wrong. He was used to victim missing girls' phones to ask about another one. They also noticed that from the same number asked from different barrels. Now here, downfall. where he called the police, and the police, in terms of him, prepared the scenario swimming that girls nibbled, kidnapped, sorry, and sold. After many tried, the police catched and sent him to the Metropolitan Police Station. He denied kidnapping and selling them, but revealed to the police that he was responsible for the murder. Police were unsure about conviction and didn't believe him. He told them he was killed 20 people and ate some of the victims' organs. Therefore, the cold-blooded killer faced the maximum punishment of the death penalty, even if the judgment, not execution. He stayed in the prison forever. Thank you.
So he was given the death penalty, but they didn't actually go through with it yet.
Yes, right.
Also, there was something that you mentioned. This was a very important note that I was waiting to see if anyone noticed. You usually targeted working girls. So maybe we're to talk about working girls. First, I would like you guys to excuse me for talking about this, but it is in the story. So working girls, they are prostitutes. And the reason he targeted them was because usually girls like this don't have families to ask about them, the same way that you mentioned earlier.
Yes, right.
So that was a big reason why these were the types of victims that he targeted. And you mentioned that he was given the death penalty, but it was not executed yet. So to bring this topic about, how do we feel about this lack of execution of the death penalty? Do you think it's fair?
Yeah.
For example, do you think if someone is put on death row هدول الناس اللي بيستنوا حكم الإعدام، إنه انحكم عليهم إعدام وعم بيستنوا هالحكم يتنفذ. This is called death row. Let me write it for you guys. So do you think people on death row should be executed immediately? Or is it okay if something like this, a decision like this, is made to wait?
I think, in my opinion, waiting not too much. When they're staying for 6, 7, 8 years to execute the judgment for death row to execution, I think it's too much. 1 year maximum, and they have to execute that one. This is my opinion.
Like this idea to put like a time limit on it, a deadline of sorts. Like it has to be a year or less. Once they hit that 1 year mark, they have to be executed.
Yes.
And we also brought up the question. Let me see if I can find it here. Where is it?
Down.
This one specifically. Do you think some people deserve the death penalty, or do you think it's more suitable for them to spend life in prison? And what crimes do we deem deserving of the death penalty? When I say deem, بالمعنى like إحنا بنعتبرهم برأينا إحنا. For example, I deem this appropriate. If I were to say, I deem this appropriate. يعني برأيي إنه هذا الشيء appropriate. So what crimes do we deem deserving of the death penalty?
I think intention killer, killing people. This is this appropriate to deserve death penalty, I think.
So
For
murder.
intentional, it will be right.
Yeah, the difference between intentional murder and non-intentional murder. So when it's non-intentional مثلا حدا دعس حدا بالغلط it's called manslaughter. هذا اللي من دون intention بلا نية. هلا murder لا بيكون there was intent and the person actually wanted to kill someone.
Yeah.
So murder, what about other crimes? Guys مش مصحصحين معي اليوم كأنه. Mahmoud, can you hear me?
Yes, دكتورة معك.
What crimes do you think deserve the death penalty?
Death penalty, in my opinion, is fair, especially in murders, because the killer must be killed.
The killer must be killed. What about other crimes or just murder?
Just like what يعني؟
There are other crimes. Murder مش الوحيد الجريمة البني آدم ممكن يسويه صح؟ يعني إيش مكان الجريمة برأيك أنت? What other crimes deserve the death penalty or just murder?
In my opinion, I think just the killer.
So just murderers, okay.
In the story of Chernobyl,
maybe
I think he deserved the death.
counterfeit currency.
زي ما أنا بسوي.
How about Mahmoud finishes his thought first and then you can talk, Hussein.
Sorry.
I'm sorry?
I can talk?
Of course you can talk, but Mahmoud was in the middle of a thought, that's why.
Okay. After my colleague.
Go ahead, Mahmoud.
Niftora, in the story of Chernobyl story, I think he deserves the death penalty because he killed people, some people in bad ways. They are elderly and children.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that last line?
I think in the story of Chernobyl, I think he deserves the death penalty because he killed some people in bad way.
Okay, so you
And
can say in
they are elderly and children.
you could say in a cruel way حتى. Cruel meaning
Yes.
بحقارة. يعني they weren't even, I wouldn't call a murder normal, but they weren't even normal murders. There was something cruel and sadistic about them.
He used a homemade hammer.
So the intent was 100% there. You wouldn't make a hammer unless you wanted to kill people. يعني النية كانت موجودة definitely. And there was no remorse. ما كان في إنه هو ندمان مثلا. There was no remorse.
Yes.
Okay, good, Mahmoud. And Ihsan, you wanted to talk about your opinion as well?
Yes, I think it's need to appropriate to that one in additional to murder. counterfeit currency اللي هي تزوير العملات. هي they deserve death penalty, death penalty, because it will be make مش عارف ايش الكلمه اللي ممكن تكون يعني ممكن تاثر على الاقتصاد. They affect an economy. You know that for countries. I think the court also judged that to be a death penalty. This is one, and the drug promotion, they deserve
drug
also.
dealing.
Sorry?
Drug dealing.
Yeah, drug dealing or yes. drug dealing, they deserve to death penalty also.
So drug dealers also deserve the death penalty. I'm not quite with you on the counterfeit money thing, but I do agree possibly with drug dealers receiving the death penalty because they are like murderers, if you think about it. They ruin people's lives and they hurt them. And in many cases, the drugs that they are selling lead to people dying.
Yes, right. But for the currency fee, counter currency fee, I think that's sensitive and it will affect the economic in that countries. You know a huge money in the same country. It will be make inflation and everything. It will be raise in prices.
So kind of
For
like what's
everything.
happening in Lebanon now, I think.
In Lebanon, and yes, in Lebanon, everywhere, and if there is copied currencies, it will raise the inflation. Goods and services, it will be higher and higher, and I think make disaster in that country. This is why the court judged the death penalty for that one.
Okay, so far, now you write down who deserves the death penalty. So murderers, drug dealers, and people that make counterfeit money. Do we have any other opinions? Who deserves the death penalty?
Doctor, I think the rape.
Rape, I agree with this one. So rape, or we could even say sexual crimes. And a person that commits rape would be called a rapist. But the question is, where do we draw the line? وين بنحط الحد? مثلا if someone stole something, هذا سرق شيء. Does this person deserve the death penalty? Or does it depend on where they stole from or what they stole? Where do we draw the line?
I think they're stealing some money. It will not deserve the death penalty if they اللي هو خلينا نحكي تعدي ايش سوري معناها التعدي على الممتلكات او stealing the public properties. I think that when it's depend maybe in water, maybe in something with the value for the public properties. I don't know. You understand what I mean?
Yes. So let's say someone stole from maybe a museum. هيك المقصد.
لا ممتلكات عامة، ممكن استحواذ على مثلا خلينا نقول على ووتر، على استحواذ على يعني على اشياء ممكن تكون يعني للجميع، وهي اصلا يعني حساسه يعني للجميع، لبلد معين يعني استحواذ
Okay,
عليها.
so if it affects everyone.
Yes, right. This is what I mean. I think that they deserve the penalty.
Okay, but what about in, let's say, a bank robbery?
دكتورة في حالة كمان deserve death penalty.
Who?
When you're telling the enemy with the secret information about the country, you
Spy.
deserve the...
So a spy should get the death penalty. The jasus. Or you could even say someone who betrayed their country. كان في وطنه في بلده. Because spies do usually, if they are spies for the other side, not for their own country, usually in this case we would call them I believe double agents. So they would go to the enemy and they would tell the enemy secrets, top secrets about their own country. So they have betrayed their country. And these people would be considered, you know, enemies to the state as well, I believe. I believe there's a specific word hatta for these types of criminals. I don't want to say war criminals. No, I don't think it's war criminals. But Saf, what do we think about war criminals as well? Do we know what war criminals are?
What war criminals?
War criminals, yes.
They deserve also.
هل انتوا عارفين انه في قوانين حتى بالحرب بحال حرب ممنوع البلدان يتعدوهم هدول القوانين حتى هم بحرب مع بلد ثاني. For example, what's going on in Gaza right now, lots of war crimes were committed, and I don't know them off the top of my head. We could maybe pull them up together. What are the war crimes? Maybe there's a list that we can find. For example, ill treatment or deportation to slave labor, or for any other purpose of the civilian population in the occupied territory, murder or ill treatment of prisoners of war or persons on the seas, killing of hostages, torture, العذاب, torture اللي متعذبوا بني آدم, or inhuman treatment, including biological experiments.
دكتورة, do you mean terrorism
war
يعني?
crimes. I'm sorry, Mahmoud?
Do you mean terrorism يعني?
No, not terrorism. There's something in place, I believe the UN put it in place. There's something called international law. And من ضمنه في إشي اسمه war crimes. في قوانين معينة حتى بحال بلد بحرب مع بلد تاني ممنوع يعمل هذه الأشياء, يعتبر ضد القانون. For example,
جرائم الحرب يعني.
أيوة, جرائم الحرب, مثلا يعذبوا hostage, هذا it's a war crime. I believe targeting children, this is considered a war crime. إنه يكون الهدف إنه يستهدفوا يقتلوا أطفال, this is a war crime, I believe. So
targeted hospital also.
Targeting hospitals, yes, I believe this is a war crime. Shooting a journalist or killing a journalist, صحافيين, تقتلوا صحافي, this is a war crime. هذا الشيء ممنوع. To target nurses or doctors or paramedics اللي بيكونوا عم بيعالجوا بالناس, تروحوا تتعمدوا تطخوا paramedic, this is a war crime. It's not allowed.
مثل دكتورة اللي مثلا بطلق النار في حالة الهدنة يعني. إذا كان في هدنة مثلا يوم أو يومين تطلق فيها النار, هاي جرائم حرب تعتبر.
صح, مظبوط, definitely. Because there is an agreement in place. There's a ceasefire. Ceasefire معناه إحنا اتفقنا نوقف الحرب على بعض, وأنت تروح تخون بهالشي وعلى غدر مثلا تطخ على حدا أو تطلق عليه صاروخ أو إيش ما تعمل. This is a war crime.
Teacher كمان use the white phosphor.
Yes, white phosphorus. Using white phosphorus is a war crime. It's not allowed to be used at all. It's illegal.
Not allowed to the aid to enter the area where the war is. Like water, like foil, like
الحصارة, الأشياء اللازمة مثل المي والأكل. Yes, and, let's say, water, food, medication, to not allow these to enter into the war zone or wherever the war is happening. This is also not allowed. It's a war crime, I believe. So, and also there is something called intentionally killing civilians. يعني المقصد النية إنهم إيش عم بيستهدفوا يضربوا مين؟ Civilians. Who are civilians?
مدنيين يعني.
أيوة مدنيين، الناس اللي بالشارع اللي ما لهم دخل ما لهم ذنب. To target these people and intentionally kill them, this is a war crime. مثلا Hitler زمان, he had the concentration camps. Do we know what the concentration camps are? So Hitler, he had something called concentration camps. He would put all of the Jewish people in these concentration camps. بالمعنى مش بس حابسهم بس برضو كان, he would go in there, he would torture them, he would kill them, he would send his soldiers to do this. They did not have food or water while they were in these concentration camps. And he would even occasionally take some of them for scientific experiments. يستعملوهم مثل اللاب rats اللي بتشوفوهم بالمختبرات يجربوا عليهم scientific experiments. These were war crimes. This stuff is not allowed. So if you ask me, I think people that commit war crimes should also be convicted of the death penalty.
Yes, of course.
Yes, right.
But the question is, where do we say, no, this person does not deserve the death penalty? مثلا جارنا أبو عبد الله اللي بيسرق كهرباء نوديه إعدام ولا إيش؟
انت
No.
فضحتي ابو عبد الله على كل حال.
إيه؟
انت فضحتي لابو عبد الله. I think كلنا صرنا نعرف انه ابو عبد الله بيسرق كهرباء.
إيه مثلا جارنا أبو عبد الله اللي بيسرق الكهرباء هاد كمان نعدمه؟
No.
Why not?
No. He's not deserved
Not a
that
big
penalty.
crime.
So maybe if we were to talk about standards, what qualifies someone to receive the death penalty? What are the standards that we are measuring this up against? I've noticed the pattern with your answers. Hurting others. So what can financially, for example, something that would hurt the entire economy, which would essentially affect society as a whole, or hurting others physically, be it murder or a sexual-based crime, or a war crime. So these are the people that deserve the death penalty.
Yes.
Okay, I can get on board with this, I agree. And last time
دكتورة.
we also talked about the sex offender registry.
دكتورة ممكن مداخلة خارج الموضوع؟
أكيد طبعا.
أنت مغير المكتب؟
إيش؟
مغير المكتب اللي قاعد عنده؟
كيف عرفت؟
إنه هسه عندك صدى صوت أكثر من المستوى اللي فات يعني الصوت مش واضح كثير.
أبدا دي يمكن عشان المروحة خليني أطفيه نشوف إذا بيصير أحسن.
حتى المحاضرة الماضية دكتورة كمان في صدى صوت والله كان.
معقول؟
ها؟
هيك شوي أحسن ولا لسه؟
هيك ممتازة.
Okay.
كويس دكتور.
I'm sorry about that. ما كنت ملاحظة. So we were talking about the sex offender registry last time as well. And we remember what the sex offender registry is, right? بيكون يعني الاسم كامل مع الصورة مع عنوان البيت كله موجود. Now, do we think this is fair? And do we think we should also have registries for other types of criminals? Yes, no, we're taking a nap, we don't know. What is the answer here?
Can you repeat, please?
So last time we talked about the sex offender registry.
Yes,
Do we remember this?
yes, yes.
Do you think it's fair? هالشي سوي? And do you think there should be something like this for murderers or maybe even other types of criminals? إنه المفروض برضه يكون في هيك شيء مثلا مجرمين إنه قاتلين حدا أو ممكن حتى جرائم تانيين. What do you guys think?
It's a wonderful idea.
Doctor, I think it's an unfair system.
Unfair, why?
Because every people need to privacy in his life.
So even criminals deserve privacy.
Yes.
Okay, so you think it's unfair. I heard another opinion as well. Who said it's wonderful?
Me.
لا.
Yes, it's a wonderful idea, in my opinion.
Can you
And
tell us
fair.
more? Why do you think it's a wonderful idea?
Because anyone make a crime, especially if it's a major crime like murder, like such sex offender, must be punished for it. And the good punishment for all people to know about the person and to know his name. Firstly, to be careful of him, the community to be careful of him, and secondly, to be an example for others, so that anyone would be afraid to make a crime, so that his name would not be published.
Okay,
And
go ahead, Kamli.
And we can, as Muhammad said, if his behavior is good and his name can be removed from this list, but under conditions, certain conditions, يعني guarantee he will not repeat the crime.
What kind of conditions exactly? Just not repeating the crime, or the same conditions, for example, people in the sex offender registry, they're not allowed to live near schools. Conditions like this as well, or just they don't repeat the crime?
I think I'm not allowed to say or to talk about these conditions. Maybe a lawyer, maybe a judgment. They know better than me, but I think it's a good idea. But
Okay,
they need we need to punish them in يعني بشكل علني.
so in a public way.
Yes, in a public way.
So you think, yes, other criminals should be put on the registry as well, but you believe there should be a probation period. Probation period بالمعنى إنه زي وقت معين نعتبرهم معاقبين فيه يضلهم على هذا الليست فترة the probation period, and if their behavior is good, they can be removed from the list or the registry.
Yes, under conditions.
Under certain conditions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good idea.
Mahmoud, did you say something?
Yes.
What do you think about the probation period, Mahmoud?
I think every person has the right, even if he has a criminal.
Criminal records.
Yes. Register of sex offenders may cause some psychological problems for the criminals, such as depression or anxiety or stress.
It's not an excuse, in my opinion. Yeah.
So are you worried about the criminal getting depression because of his well-being or because it might cause him to commit another crime?
Yes, of course.
Finally, he is a human. يعني, he have rights in his life.
And the people who killed them or raped them have a right also. That's in my opinion. Maybe I'm a monster, but that's my opinion.
I respect both of your opinions. There's no such thing as a wrong opinion. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. يعني من حقكم إنه رأيكم طبعا.
Our religion respect the privacy for a human.
Yes, of course, but he in our religion said if anyone killed, the other must killed.
Okay, you know what? How about you guys prepare something in terms of the registry